of presidential election to secure over 50% votes. Or also a report, federal government speaks on retrenching workers. Edo Deputy Governor Philip Shine from PDP headquarters demands certificate of return for primary election. And Nigerian Labour Congress reveals fresh reason for suspending second day of protest. Details now. The world news begins with the House of Representatives rejecting a bill that seeks to make it compulsory for presidential and governorship candidates to secure more than 50% of the total votes cast to be declared winners. VOP News gathered that the bill, which was sponsored by Awaji Inombek Abiante, representing PDP Rivers, is seeking to change the current simple majority system of electing the president and governors, which is in line with Section 134, Subsection 1 of the 1999 Constitution. The bill sought to make it mandatory for a presidential candidate to be declared winner only if he or she scored more than half of the votes cast, where there are more than two candidates in the contest. Abiante's bill proposed that in a presidential race with more than two candidates, a candidate must secure a majority of the total votes, which constitutes over 50%. The Speaker of the House, Tajuddin Abbas, had called for the bill to be seconded after its presentation by Abiante. However, as soon as the bill was seconded and put to a voice note, it was rejected with louder nays than ayes. The bill had not been debated when lawmakers roundly rejected it. The bill's rejection process was highly unusual, as bills are typically rejected after the general principle has been debated. If this system had been used in conducting the 2023 election, President Bola Tinubu would not have been declared the winner of the election in the first ballot, as he did not secure the majority of the total votes cast. Elsewhere, the Minister of Information, Mohammed Idris, has disclosed that the implementation of the 12-year-old Steve Orosanye report will not lead to the retrenchment of workers. He stated that the essence of the implementation was not to retrench workers, but to maximize the agency's effectiveness and efficiency and reduce cost. Idris disclosed this during his remarks at the ministerial press briefing on Wednesday in Abuja. You'll recall that the Federal Executive on Monday approved the implementation of the recommendations of the Orosanye panel on the restructuring and rationalization of the federal government agencies and commissions. The government said the implementation of the policy would involve the merging, subsuming, and scrapping of agencies with similar functions. Elsewhere, the Deputy Governor of Edo State, Philip Shaibu, has stormed the National Secretariat of the People's Democratic Party to demand the certificate of return. You will recall that the acting national chairman of the PDP, Umaru Damagum, had on Tuesday issued a certificate of return to Asuo Ighodalo as the winner of the party's governorship primary election in Edo State. Ighodalo won the election, backed by the National Working Committee of the party, while Shaibu was announced the winner of another primary held on the same day. Speaking after receiving the certificate of return, Ighodalo expressed delight to his supporters, party members, and the National Working Committee. The former chairman of Sterling Bank also asked his challengers in the election to unite and support him in the interest of the party. But in a chat with reporters on Wednesday, which is today in Abuja, the deputy governor said that today is a day set aside by the National Working Committee of the party to collect the certificate of return. In a recent development, the Nigerian Labour Congress has revealed that its members and leadership were threatened and intimidated against carrying out their planned two-day nationwide protest. The Labour Union, however, revealed that despite the threats, it went ahead with the protest on Tuesday. The NLC president, Joe Ajaro, who made this known in a press conference today, also disclosed that the union got information that several agents were mobilized to cause violence along protest routes, and that it is part of the reasons they had to suspend the second day of protest. You would recall that the NLC had declared a two-day nationwide mass protest for February 27 and 28, 2024 over the economic hardship and rising cost being faced by Nigerians since the removal of subsidy on petrol in May 2023. However, after Tuesday's successful protests across various state capitals and major cities, the NLC announced the suspension of its planned second-day protest, saying the objectives of the protest had been achieved on the first day. Shedding more light on the development, Ajuri today revealed that the cancellation of the second-day protest was a strategic move on the part of NLC. He, however, added that if the federal government fails with, or rather in complying with the demands of the union within the new ultimatum given, the National Executive Council of the NLC would reveal the next line of action. And now it's time for the news analysis segment with Mr. Peter Anosike. Peter Anosike is a political, social, and national affairs commentator. He's also an economic strategist, one of the best-selling authors of one of the business books in Africa. Mr. Peter Anosike, good evening and welcome to the World News at 6.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So let's talk about the first story that I read on this morning. We would have thought that because of the, would I say, controversial circumstances that trailed the 2023 elections, that now the House of Rep would actually sit down and look at a bill or look at the Constitution or the Electoral Act and see how they can try to make some reform or modification so that in 2027, when the elections are taking place, we would not have several controversies that surrounded this particular election. Now, apparently, the bill is to make mandatory for a presidential candidate to be declared winner only if he or she scores more than half of the total votes cast, where there are more than 2 candidates in the contest. Now, the bill was proposed by Abiante, and in a presidential race with more than 2 candidates, a candidate must secure a majority of the total votes, which constitutes over 50%. Unfortunately, when the Speaker of the House, Tajuddin Abbas, called for the bill to be seconded after its presentation by Abiante, by the time he called for it, they all said nay. Very few people said ayes. They didn't even allow the bill to go for a first reading, not to talk of a second reading. So the question is this deliberate manipulation whereby a presidential election that is supposed to determine the choice, the voice of the people will be manipulated before the election? Is this what it means?
Well, for me, if that bill has passed through, we will be having second, third ballots in the country because we don't have popular candidates.
Okay.
We don't have popular candidates.
I need you to explain further. What do you mean by second, third ballots?
Now, assuming if this bill was there in 2023, Tinubu would not have been declared president. Okay. Because he didn't even score up to 30%
of the votes. Yes.
This is a country of more 220 million people and only paltry 8 million electing a president of 220 million. Understand me? So he didn't even score up to 20% votes. Understand? Because what informs the nation in this country is one, ethnicism and religion. Nigeria is highly divided. People vote according to their ethnic nationalities,
regardless of the fact that they may not even know this individual well.
Sure. So if this is passed, it will be very, very difficult to elect a president in this country. Or else we'll be having mergers. Okay. Understand me? That's after first ballot, then some candidates will merge. Yes. That's the only way we can get popular candidates because they know that this is practically impossible because the people who have been elected in this country are mainly shoe shiners, unpopular candidates. We don't have Nelson Mandelas of this world in this country that can score over 50% votes.
So are we saying
they are not there?
They're not there.
They are not there.
So
check within your mind.
It wouldn't have applied.
It wouldn't have at all.
But don't you think it would have been a good thing if it was passed? Possibly there will be a change in the 2027 elections, because that's the next thing.
One, it will have make it very, very stringent.
You should have made it very stringent.
Yes, but people who have gone for the best candidate.
Yes.
It will have motivated. It's only people who have national spread that will be elected. But now we are still going back to that our ethnicity stuff.
Okay.
Where a president will be elected with a 5 million vote in a country of 200 million people.
All right, Mr. Peter Anosuke, let me paint a scenario. This is not a real life scenario, but let me paint a scenario to see if your response would have been in terms of an alteration of how the 2023 elections went. So what if the APC had fielded a different candidate than President Tinubu? Let's just say Professor Yemi Osinbajo, the vice president to former President Muhammadu Buhari, right? Let's for the APC you had a Yemi Osinbajo. For the Labour Party you had a Peter Obi. For the PDP you had someone else other than Atiku Abubakar. Do you think, realistically, regardless of what people feel about the APC as a party, being the fact that they had controversies with the former president Muhammadu Buhari, do you think that the Labour Party may have garnered as much tandem as it did now? Do you think also that maybe the APC may have been the people's favorite, possibly because they fielded a different candidate? I'm just painting a scenario.
Well, Osinbajo would have done better with regard to national spread.
National spread. If we're to look at this particular bill that was rejected today,
he will be accepted both in the south and in the southeast.
Okay.
What is now going on, it will be based on competence.
Okay.
Understand me? Competence will have come here, and the elites in the north will have also favored the Osinbajo.
Okay.
Understand me? So Osinbajo would have done better than Tinubu
in terms of popularity and acceptance,
and with regard to competence and less controversy, less baggage. So for me, Osinbajo would have been the best candidate for APC in the 2023 election. All
right. Apparently, a senior Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation official has been slammed with bribery and tax-related charges in the United States, and there was a court filing to that by the People's Gazette. A jury recently returned a 3-count indictment against one Paulinus Iheanacho Okoronkwo after the Federal Bureau of Investigation, that's the FBI, found that he used his position as a general manager in NNPC's upstream department to obtain at least $2.1 million in bribes. The alleged bribe was to assist a particular Hightech Petroleum escape its $2.4 billion liability to Nigeria as part of an oil lifting contract that began in 2001. The January 10, 2024, the grand jury's indictment disclosed before the United States District Court for the Central District of California, this same California. Now, Mr. Okoronkwo, who is 67, is a dual citizen of Nigeria and the United States. He has practiced immigration and personal injury law in California for 30 years. Now, just days before former President Goodluck Jonathan was due to exit office on May 29, Mr. Okoronkwo and other NNPC officials hurriedly entered into an agreement that would see Hightech Petroleum return to developing Nigeria's crude and gas reserves. Now, the question is this. This is not the first time we see officials within the Nigerian government, right? Officials within sensitive positions like this take taxpayers' money for themselves. The president is trying to see how that can be curtailed, even if Nigerians do not trust his process. Now, this particular case is within the count jury in California, which was similar to the case that transpired before the Supreme Court affirmed President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Why do we keep having cases that has to do with treasonable or rather financial embezzlement, all right? Or financial indictment, being
economic crime.
Exactly, being tried by the United States court.
Well, for me, that could be where it happened, because Hightech Petroleum case is a very popular case about 10 years ago. So that could be where it happened.
Okay.
But saying that the president has been trying to curtail it, I don't think if it's so, because yesterday the Federal Executive Council awarded a road contract to Hightech, which is being owned by the president. It doesn't happen anywhere in the world.
Hightech is being owned by the president.
It's Tinubu's Hightech is owned by
the contract is coming back to the family.
Understand me? Sure. So it doesn't happen anywhere in the world. Fake awarded a road contract to Hightech. It doesn't happen anywhere in the world. This is an act of corruption.
Okay, now in this particular situation, who would ask the president? Who would try the president? Who would investigate the president? Who would ask the president questions as to why that was allowed?
Nobody, because he appointed the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice. He appointed the EFCC boss. So who is to, and his party is in control of the National Assembly. So who is to question him? Understand? And I'm sure what you read, the rejection of the 50% bill is because they know that with that, Tinubu will not get elected second term.
But the question is, if there were a lot of controversy that surrounded this particular emergence of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, one would have thought that the House of Representatives, the members there, would look for a situation or a means through which Nigerians would not groan and complain and talk about illegitimacy. So why was that bill asked to be let aside? Why was it completely put down? Are we saying that we have representatives in government who generally do not have the interests of the people at heart?
They are the appendages of the president. They are there to do the biddings of the president. Mind you, the key officers of both the Senate and the House of Representatives were appointed by the president. The chairman of the committees were appointed by the president. So they are there to do his bidding. Understand me? So that's why due process was not followed in the rejection of this bill. Bills are rejected after first reading, second reading. It will now be thrown open to the House. Understand?
All right.
So this is an aberration. And I'm sure it was rejected by mostly the APC members in the House.
In the House, because they're the majority in the House.
Because they are the majority.
Mr. Peter Anosike, something transpired yesterday that got a lot of people talking. The president meant to visit Qatar for a business arrangement or a business conversation as to how there can be some synergy between Nigeria and Qatar, whereby our economic situation can be uplifted. And amongst the delegates were his two sons who were included. Now, one of the representatives or spokesperson of the APC, or rather of the president, has come out to defend the president, including his sons. He actually said it is a norm. Now, the question, then it's a norm for president's sons or relatives to accompany the president on whatever official visits he wants to attend. Now, Ogra is the name, Ortega Ogra. Ortega Ogra said that some world leaders take their children on state visits to educate them about world affairs and different cultures. Now, this is with the taxpayers' money, which has been allocated for the president. Now, you do recall that Sheyi and Yinka are among the delegates to accompany the president. But the question Nigerians are asking is, was Sheyi and Yinka, were they elected? Were they part of the persons that were part of the ballot boxes that were, voted for to come in? Were they part of the taxpayers' money attached to the presidency? Is this what is required? Is this how it's going to be with this administration? That's what actually said a lot of tongues are
for me, I have said it before, we are in an era of impunity. We are in an era of the unusual. Understand? If the president wants to take his children on tours, he should do it with his own personal money, not with the taxpayers' money. Unquote, Nigerians voted for Ahmed Tinubu, not Yinka or Sheyi. Understand me? In the United States, presidents entertain their guests with their own with their salaries. Understand me? Because it's not Nigeria that are invited those guests to come to the president's house. Understand me? So that's why we are in an era of aberration. in an era of unusual. And this so-called spokesman would defend the indefensible. This doesn't happen anywhere. It doesn't happen anywhere. Understand? Who Nigerians voted for was Boname Tinubu,
not Sheyi.
When P2B was the governor of Anambra State, there was no first. Understand me? His wife said that I am now the first lady of Anambra State. P2B
but there was no first lady's office.
P2B, it is me that Anambra State voted for, not you. So go and sit down.
All right, Mr. Peter Anosike, let's look at Michael Zekome, who is a senior advocate of Nigeria. He has criticized the policies of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration, and he's accusing it of reverting Nigeria to a state of hunger and starvation reminiscent of the 1983 era. He expressed his concerns while he appeared on a monitor television program called Politics Today, where he emphasized the negative impacts of removing subsidies without adequate measures to mitigate the resulting challenges. Now, Mr. Anosike, the president has talked about the releasing of 43 or 42,000 metric tons of grains. He has also set up an economic team to look at palliative measures to cushion the hunger pang or hunger effects. Also, you saw recently bags of rice were sold at a very subsidized rate. Unfortunately, in a stampede, people died. You also hear the president saying that he understands Nigeria's needs and the porosities, and gave reasons as to why subsidy was removed, even without explaining the other palliative measures. Do you think this administration would encourage more corruption to take place with all of this happening?
P2B said the process through which somebody comes into office will determine what he or she is going to do. It is through corrupt processes that brought this government into power. And that foundation has been laid. It will continue on that. And taking the Yinka and the Sheyi to Qatar is part of that corruption, because it doesn't happen anywhere in the world.
What if it was the president's personal finance that he used to take them to Qatar? We may not know exactly.
They are going there as delegates. Their names appeared as delegates. And delegates are being sponsored by the federal government. Understand me? So if they want to learn world politics, they should go independently and not going as part of Nigerian mission to Qatar. It is wrong. So his policies has been wrong. Understand me? And there's what Ozekome said in 1984. Nigerians were queuing up for basic commodities,
and that's what's happening now. They're queuing for food. There's a soup kitchen that has been stated that will be created in Lagos State to help serve food to Lagosians. The Lagos State governor came out to describe the process through which they were going to also implement a process of hunger alleviation by cooking in different local governmental wards like Mama Put to serve people, more than 1,000 people, food. So isn't that what
that will never grow? That will never grow an economy. No economy cannot grow by dashing people money or food. Are you aware that in Port Harcourt, a woman brought her 5-year-old son to the market for sale? In Port Harcourt, a woman brought her 5-year-old son to the market for sale because of hardship. This is what we are seeing in this. Tinubu's government has taken Nigeria to 536 AD, which is the worst year in human history. 536 AD. That's where we are at this point in time. Just under 8 months. And there's no headway. All these things that they are talking about cannot grow the economy.
It's really sad, Mr. Anosike. There is no electricity, petrol is expensive, you have harsh economic conditions, there are no alternatives through which anyone can...
12 kg of gas is now selling at 17,000 naira, 12 kg. So even if you struggle to get that food, to cook it becomes a problem. Understand? So that's where we are at, just within 9 months of an administration. So
what do we expect in the next 4 years or 3 years of this administration then, if we're experiencing this now?
Well, it's a renewed suffering.
Renewed hope. There's a renewed hope agenda.
It's renewed suffering.
Mr. Anosike, thank you so much for your time on the World News at 6. I sincerely do appreciate it. appreciate your input.
Yeah, thank you so much.
To wrap up the world news at 6, here again are the top stories. Reps reject bill requiring winner of presidential election to secure over 50% votes. Oronsanya report, federal government speaks on retrenching workers. Edo Deputy Governor Philip Shoibu stormed supporters didn't certificate of return for primary election, and NLC reveals fresh reason for suspending second day of protest. That's a wrap on the world news at 6. My name is Esther Mwachuku. Good evening and thank you for listening.